across the room. Hopefully the folks downstairs walked across the room and got to the next monitor. And so I will officially call the Town Board work session for September 27th, 2017 to order. And we'll let the minutes reflect that all the board members are present, as well as a number of staff members, as well as a number of distinguished guests in the audience. We have the September 13th, 2017 minutes before us. I'm going to entertain a motion of approval of those minutes.
I'll move to approve this from 15 minutes.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for roll call vote. I'll ask for a voice vote. Those minutes, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Lisa. As always, thank you for that. Monthly reports are all up to date. We have no public hearings this evening. We do have one guest, Jess Sudol, to discuss Homerama 2018. Mr. Anna Tomaso, I see, is with him. And with that, we'll kick it to Mr. Valentine to tee it up for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Wanted to bring in Jess Sudol and, as you stated, Anna Tomaso. They wanted to talk to the board about the possibility of Homerama in 2018. They are currently have an application in before the planning board that'll be heard on October 12th. So staff is reviewing their plans, going through that review. It is the last phase of, obviously, a many-phased subdivision. Thank you, Jess, I think for the colored rendering kind of shows the pieces that were there, and then portions were done. Homerama's been done in pieces of it before. I think they can talk some about logistics and staging of it. One of the things just kind of want to jump into before they get too far into their thing is we talked 2 weeks ago about paving and some of the information with that. I sent the board an update on that today, and I have paper copies of that. In our last rendition or adoption of our regulation, we took out the actual hard fast date of November 15th. So that date is no longer there, but it does refer to the New York State DOT spec. So originally we were going to kind of have them come in and talk about a possible extension to paving. They're coming in October. Obviously, most of the logistics is there as far as they got some site grading. I'll let them get further into that. But obviously then that spec refers to the New York State DOT spec, and it's more of a temperature-based spec, and that was part of our conversation last week as well. So I have those hard copies if that piece of it comes up, but I'll turn it over to Jess and John to kind of talk about Homerama 18 and some logistics for the board.
All right. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for covering half of what we were going to say here. It's helpful. We do allow you, so we don't necessarily want to always be the ones talking. But good evening. I think you all know us, Jess from Passrow and John. This project has been going on for quite some time, and as Mark mentioned, this would be the third Homerama, and it would be proposed in Phase 5, which is 21 lots, and that's shown in white up here. And it would ultimately be the last phase that's reviewed and approved by the planning board with our full design and construction plans. It allows us to complete a lot of things that we set out to do in the beginning with utility connections that connect through here. And what we really like about this is there's this existing dead end at Phase 4, the dead end up here, and this proposed phase would finish that loop. It seems like every time we do have a Homerama, we're in here in September or October talking about paving and having to hustle through the process, which we don't enjoy doing that, nor do we want to do it. Unfortunately, it gets largely dictated by the Homerama schedule and backing that off. The Homerama is planned for July of next year, which means that we would have to start or turn homes over to builders in February of next year. And obviously February and January is not a great time to pave, so we're constantly trying to squeeze it in the year before. Working from the reverse order, this process started with 4 potential sites, one in Canandaigua, one in Farmington, one of course here in Penfield, and also one in Webster. Over the last month or two, it's been slowly whittled down, and that's largely based on the amount of interest each site gets from various home builders who would qualify, to be in Homerama. We think that we're going to be able to get 8 builders, so we would have 8 lots that would, go in this general vicinity here, which kind of sets us at the forefront. It's now been whittled from 4 down to 2, and we feel very well positioned that we're going to be the ones selected. Of course, we really have to feel well-positioned before we can pull the trigger on committing to all the infrastructure costs that goes along with it. Because, even just the 8 lots that are built in Homerama aren't enough to cover that infrastructure cost. But that's, we kind of get compressed on both sides of the schedule, which is why we are where we are now. But I will say, Mark and all the staff here has been, great to work with, and we've done this, a bunch of different times. Some of the other elements that are included in this particular phase is we finally end up doing the sidewalk up here at 5 Mile Line Road, which has been a long time coming. Other than that, we're just executing a plan that's been in place for a really long time. The infrastructure is there. It's just a matter of connecting and moving forward. We appreciate the update on the asphalt, because that was one of the things we were going to talk about this evening, was the potential, weather pending, of being able to extend that season out a little bit. But I think it's appropriate to follow the state DOT spec and temperature. It's 30 degrees every day after November 15th, well, that's our problem, and we recognize that. So.
Well, and I just mean to, in all the love possible for this, you guys tend to make it our problem. You say that it's, your problem, but you tend to make it our problem, that we're holding you up, type of thing. So, certainly, I've been probably the biggest proponent on this board, back when I was a town board member and as supervisor, that we have these cutoffs, we have these specifications, and when we differ and we vary from that, if you want it bad, you get it bad, and that's the concern that I've historically had, in and around that. So if you can stay to the specs and you can stay to the New York State specs, then I'm okay with that. But I've got this concern that we'll drift, and we'll be sitting around a table with crocodile tears, looking to have some relief. And I'm just going to tell you up front, you won't have my vote to get that relief.
No, understood, and we're doing it. And by no means do I mean to make it your problem, or I understand that. And we are doing everything on our end. Believe me, our guys want to pave October 31st if we can, and that's really
We'd love to see it
on us
October
to
31st.
do our work, make sure we're prepared, make sure drawings are ready, and we're going to really work hard towards that end.
So when do you go to the planning board?
October 12th.
October 12th.
So you got a lot of, there's a lot of ground to cover, that makes the assumption that planning board approves the same night that they hear the application. So that's another component that you're going to be bumping up against as well.
Sure.
And I don't know where you are in that process. It sounds like application has been submitted, but the hearing's on the 12th. So
That's correct. And again, it's really on us and our team to be very responsive to Mark and his team when they have comments. Work with them to address the comments to their satisfaction, to make sure that we're keeping everybody happy, and that's what we intend to do.
Could there be a point down the road if we're going to temperature based? As we all know, you start moving in the fall. One day it may be 42 degrees, and then 2 days later it could be 65 degrees. Will that have an impact on, what your progress is, or what the asphalt plants will allow, or will they eventually close down at a certain point that's going to cause a problem, or will they stay open if a customer is still
They
get
look
product?
at long-term weather projections, and they know their customer base and how many other people are out in similar situations, and they'll make a judgment. They don't have they won't issue a cutoff date in September,
Right.
but they will, early to mid-November say, hey guys, we're going to be closing down, November 22nd, just to pick an arbitrary date. For a really big job, like a throughway job, if there was, then you'll see plants actually open just for one specific project,
Yeah,
but this isn't
okay.
big enough for that.
One of the things we did talk about was what is the plan B if the weather goes totally south. And I know John Mika said they do have millings out there, and the possibility if they get everything, utilities in, the gutters poured, they could lay fabric down, put the millings in, then you have a solid base that they could work from. They would have to then take the millings back out come springtime, remove the fabric, and then could pave at that point in time. So
Yeah.
that was an option, at least they put out there as a plan B. Should the weather, we get 2 feet of snow all of a sudden December 1st, and
Yeah,
now
it
we're-
costs a lot of money for us, but again, that's, we put ourselves in this position. I will, as you folks all know, we are required to put up a letter of credit for this road, so if there was, we made the wrong decision and the road did not hold up to Mark's team's satisfaction, you know, we would be responsible to, you know, replace that road in order to get our letter of credit back.
And then we always require a 2-year bond on the road afterwards, depending upon conditions. This board has imposed a 3-year bond just to make sure, you know, if they're not quite optimal conditions, that there's additional time that the town is, you know, insured to make sure that the road does hold up to our spec.
Even prior, when the when our specifications referred to November 15th as a cutoff date, the temperature specification was still part of that and has always been kind of enforced. And it
45
relates.
and 45 and rising.
Yeah.
And
The state does it in Celsius, but same thing.
Yep, and it's related to the ground temperature, not the ambient air temperature, so that's a little more kind of consistent.
Sure.
You know,
I just don't know.
a cold day one day and a warm day the next.
Right. Isn't the
won't
cart
have-
before the horse when October 12th is when the planning board is going to be talking about it?
Again, they're just looking ahead and, you know, kind of pre-planning, just trying to be prepared that, you know, hopefully everything goes well, hopefully everything goes smoothly, hopefully they're not in the situation. You know, I think at least I'm happy to see the developers coming in sooner than they have in the past. Usually we've been up against that November 15th date and they've come into a work session on the 12th going, we're not going to make it. You know,
Right.
it's not happening. At least now they're kind of looking ahead and knowing, you know, we've had that hard fast date in the past, you know, now it's
No, I
temperature
think
based and
what
everything
you're
else.
doing is good, talking about the safety specs and temperature. It makes a lot more sense, especially if the
So-
asphalt companies are going to be open, and it seemed kind of logic.
But I say it's very weather dependent and depends on
Yeah.
what other projects are going on. Obviously, they know, again, it's dependent upon the planning board approving it. When we've had all those conversations, you know, there are other things, but they're just trying to kind of make sure they got all their bases covered.
I think it's helpful for an applicant to have all the information they can going to the planning board. That's just a good faith effort to present the planning board in case they.
And at least the planning board has questions saying, is this possible?
Yeah.
Is the town board comfortable? And
Right.
if the town board says, yeah, we're okay, as long as it meets all our specs, then, you know, that may give the planning board comfort level to move ahead on their end as well.
So, if you do get your approval on the 12th or 14th, I apologize, the 12th and 14th, have you got all the other things, you know, easement documents, letter of credit, all those types of things? Those tend to be, you know, some of the holdups as well. So, you know, I would fully expect that you guys are getting all those ducks in a row, so that all those I's are dotted and T's crossed, so that you can go when everything is done.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. What more do you need from this board at this time, Mark? Are you?
Just wanted to share and make sure, one, obviously to share the information of possibly Homerama 2018. You know, see, we've had it many times before. It's been a great, you know, great thing for the community to have in there, so wanted them to share that. The other was just to kind of bring you up to speed since 2 weeks ago, and I dug into the regulations and pulled the stuff out to, one, brief the board on that, and just to make you aware of what's going on with their projects. So
Okay.
one
And I'm
was-
certainly supportive of Homerama coming to Penfield again. I think we still have the record for the number of Homeramas by community, and I certainly think there's a great benefit to the town. Anything we can do within reason to facilitate that, I'm in favor of.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns you want to put on the table that you feel is pertinent to the discussion?
No, we just appreciate the opportunity to come in,
Absolutely.
and Mark, again, thanks for your guidance.
Mark, anything more from your team's end that, or actually Eric from the DPW
My
standpoint?
only question, and John may not know the answer, do they have an official release date of who the final one is, or will you know that in the next week or two, or is that?
We'll know next week or two.
Okay,
We had a meeting this morning, but
okay, just so we're prepared.
99.9999% there.
Okay.
And we also like to bring it to Penfield, so.
Yeah.
We had 20,000 at our last show there.
Yeah, it's great.
Anything else, Eric?
I'd say due to the logistics of snow plowing, anytime that we can have roads connected and have less hammerheads, it's certainly easier for our drivers, whether we're plowing or just being able to, you know, drive on a solid surface if it didn't end up being asphalt millings.
Yeah, want to get that loop
Okay.
finished up.
Unless we've got to back up, the easier.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move into our action items. The first item we have is 2328 Old Browncroft Boulevard, Glendevere's, and Mr. Valentine.
Thank you. A few handouts for the board. I'm going to pass around, there's 3 items there. I don't know if I have full sets of the pictures. Came before the board 2 weeks ago to talk about the Glendevere's application. Again, another one pending before the planning board is to take down a portion of a hill to expand their parking. I came away from that meeting with 3 action items. One was a recommendation from PRC, which I emailed to the board last week. Knowing that there's a trailhead location there, PRC thought important first off to identify the location. You can see in the early picture showing the trailhead marker, and then as well as the alarm for the new sanitary sewer that comes through there. Have them identify those on their plans so they're properly located. And then second, work with them for an opportunity to maybe make a couple of gravel spaces off the sides people can pull off, have those designated for trailhead hiking locations. So that was the initial feedback for the recommendation letter from PRC. The second item was a request for some photos. So the photos, as you're looking at them, kind of looking up the road, the initial ones from Glendevere's towards where Old Browncroft continues on up. There used to be an earthen berm there. Now there's some rocks there. Eric and his team worked last summer, had the sanitary sewer installed down through there. The one picture shows the alarm box at the siphon that goes under it, the trailhead, and then you can kind of see Glendevere's in the distance. The other piece is the upper left, as you're looking at, is kind of that knoll. It's kind of a sand knob that's out there. It is vegetated right now. That's the portion they're looking to kind of take down. So they're taking kind of what is a kind of a drumlin on top and then carving that into kind of more of an amphitheater style. Behind the kiosk. So to the left, or as Andy has the first picture here, as you're looking towards their white building straight ahead, would kind of in that corner is where they kind of put the parking back in there. It would take the vegetation off of that hill. They're proposing to leave a berm between Old Browncroft and that piece, and then the last request was for cross sections. I don't know if I passed it off around. It kind of shows the cross sections through there, and they have them done by stationing. So if you look at this first page, 12 plus 50 is here. So 1250 shows it going through the berm and then down into the new parking area. 1300, they have 1350, and then 1400 is the way they have their sections set up. So they provided the cross section showing, if I can flip the page, showing basically that the hill that's there now that goes up. Obviously, they're looking to take that material away, truck that off, create the low area. This is the swale that's at the bottom to drain that. This is the berm that would be left. Obviously, the road that itself would be left alone. It's just affecting that area in here, and here's where obviously our right-of-way line is. 1200 is down further. 1300 shows again that berm area being taken out, the berm being left, and then carving out the amphitheater in there, and then on to 1350, and then at 1400 it shows that the hill was kind of remains at the back end of it as that's not being graded out of it. This is still a pending application before both the planning board and the zoning board. The planning board did talk about it briefly last night. Their meeting was on a Tuesday this week. They talked about it last night. They were waiting to see what the town board's decision was on that. If the board said no, no grading in our right-of-way, as Randy from T.Y. Lynn shared, they'd have to change their design. They may lose some of the parking that they're showing, may have to go with some extensive retaining walls in that area. So we kind of change what is before the planning board. So kind of pending upon what this board's decision is, if you're okay with what they're showing, the berm, any other additional conditions you want to pass along, we can pass that back to the planning board, and then obviously the zoning board needs to weigh in on it as well, because it's an expansion to a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Right.
We also briefly discussed this at Watershed Management, so they were aware of it at our last meeting.
Yep.
Not to this degree of
We
drawings,
didn't,
but
we
I
didn't
think
have these
we had-
profiles at
We
that
had the
time.
measurements and and they seemed comfortable with it,
We
given
brought up the overall plan and kind of showed them, and again, it's a compromise. You know, I don't think everybody loves taking down that much vegetation, that much trees. We also understand the logistics, you know, the safety for the fire marshal. You know, they've had concerns over the years as there is very, very limited parking here. Cars park on both sides of the road, so just getting emergency vehicles back into there, you know, is tough at times. To get in there, we have to, you know, get in and, you know, plow our portions of it and everything else. So I think the other boards understand the need for the parking. Obviously, there's some environmental concerns. They still got to, you know, work through some abutting areas with wetlands with the DEC, and they're showing up after their stormwater treatment. They're showing a discharge on the county property, and the county parks is still weighing in on that. So they've got several steps to go. So this is, you know, by no means the final piece of it. But this kind of casts forward, at least if the board's okay with the work in the right of way, then that kind of sets the steps forward for the next boards to take their action from here.
Board, comfort level?
Okay.
Okay with it?
The PRC comments, you're adding additional parking potential for the
We're looking at
gravel.
just some gravel spaces, you know, kind of right up in here. Right now, you kind of pull headlong into two spaces on the end. We thought if they regrade this berm, there may be room, you know, you could either have parallel spaces along this or even diagonal spaces, so, you know, pick up, you know, 2 or 3 gravel spaces, not looking to make more paving. That also kind of leaves us open if we do have an issue with the sanitary sewer, you know, Eric and his team can get in, we can get in from the top, but it's easier to come in on this end if, you know, if they had access to sanitary sewers and wasn't vehicles in a way that would help them as well.
Okay. The other thing that I would suggest and recommend that we have some type of an agreement drawn, subject to the approval by the town attorney, whether that be a combination of Mr. Horowitz or Mr. Weishar, that we're giving them, you know, permission to work within our right-of-way. Two, that you know, we're looking for that the parking. 3, we want to make sure that we protect all of the devices and sewer-related appurtenances that we have at that location, so that they are either clearly marked or protected, or what have you overall. And would suggest that we put that in as part of our approval back to the planning board and the zoning board.
And I also believe in my conversations with the town attorney is also to note that by no means does this give away the town's rights to the right-of-way.
That's right.
They may have the right to do some regrading in there, but the town, you know, holds its rights over the road at the right-of-way.
Right. We're
And this is
not giving any of those rights away as part of this, approval. Okay. Someone willing to make a motion to that effect?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved, seconded with the conditions that we identified. Any other questions, comments? Staff, anything we should be aware of that we haven't discussed as part of this particular application? All right, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you very much. We'll get that information back to the planning board and let them continue on with their application. All right, thank you guys. Our second item is 23 Naples Circle Sanitary Sewer Abandonment. Mr. Valentine, you're the star of the show tonight.
Thank you. Naples Circle is the subdivision at the corner of Atlantic and Baird, a small little cul-de-sac. I circled 23 at the end of the street, and I don't have a great graphic showing the easement, but when it was originally conceived, the sanitary is in the pinkish color as it runs down, connects into the property in the back. So 23 has green in the back, which is the storm sewer, as well as pink, so they have sanitary and storm running along their back property line, which of course has an easement over it. I turned the easements off because it would just become a blur, and then they have the sanitary running on the west side of their property. Originally, when it was designed and it was changed in the field, the sanitary sewer ran down the east side of their property. So we have an easement on the east side of their property, the west side of their property, and the south side of their property. So Mark DeFrancesco, back in 2006, was working with the neighbors to abandon that. For whatever reason, at that time, they did not move forward with that, whether it was just forgotten and dropped. Now they want to put a shed in, and basically we have an easement over every part of their property, so there's no place to put a shed. So the abandonment is basically what is not shown, that the grass strip, there's a 20-foot sanitary sewer easement on the east side of their property. So running on this side of the property is just abandon that. We have no utilities in that area, there's no need for the easement. It was contemplated back in 2006 by Mark DeFrancesco, so none of the other easements are abandoned. We do have utilities in those, but it's just abandon this piece, and then they have an area that they can put the shed on their property, so.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Mark, you will prepare the proper paperwork. We'll get that into the town board for resolution for the 4th of October. Is that doable? All right, very good, very good. That will take us down to item C, 11 Meadowlark Drive, hold harmless agreement request, Mr. Valentine.
Two handouts for this one. Here this evening is Melissa and Matt Simmons. They
Welcome.
contacted us recently. Recently moved to 11 Meadowlark, which is off of Pembroke. They have a 10-foot wide drainage easement in their backyard. We used to take easements over swales in backyards. We don't really anymore. We went out there to take a look at that. They have dogs. I'll let them speak more about that. But they wanted to put a fence up. We're talking about a chain link fence. So first is their letter asking for that. We went out there and looked at it. There is a storm sewer inlet 1 yard over from them. Looking at the chain link fence, it is a flow through on that. I have more concern about the neighbor's berm and pine trees that were in the neighbor's yard that I need to follow up with them about, that's blocking the drainage. So that's a follow-up for me, but
A reaction, there's a reaction, right?
a chain link fence in a backyard, staff didn't really have a major concern for that, but obviously they need a harmless agreement. Shared with them if and when we had to get to that, we don't have any infrastructure in it. It is just a drainage swale, but if we were to get in there to clean it, it would obviously be on them. We would remove the fence or peel back the sections of the fence, do the work we have to do, and it'd be at their cost to replace the fence and put it back in.
Could I just see?
I'll let them show
Hold
you.
on. No, that's okay, I just wanted to take a quick.
So in 11, and our lines don't line up exactly, but kind of the grayish green colored line should be right up against the rear property line. It's a little off kilter in this sketch here.
And I was going to ask if it actually was the rear property line. So you plan on putting the fence along the rear property line?
Yeah,
And
so
that's where the swale is?
what happened was, when we purchased this, it was actually sitting, it was a zombie house for 4 years, so the guy flipped it. We didn't have an actual layout of our yard yet, a survey map. Once that was done, we had already moved in. Well, it was right before we moved in, so we didn't know about the easements or anything. We have 3 dogs, and if the whole thing was we would be allowed to put it up to the property line as long as there was no easements or anything in there. We found out there was, we could still put it 10 feet back, but that puts it 10 feet off our
Right.
sunroom, which is not really even worth it.
Right.
So we do understand that it would be removed if you guys had to do any work in there. It is a flow through. It seems like you can access that area from the other open area between the condos or whatnot, but it's understood that if you guys had to do any work, it would be removed in our cost to put back in.
I've got no problem. I move to approve.
Okay. Motion's been made, second. Any
Just as
further-
an off note, I did talk to the neighbor, they said they had spoken with you about those arborvitaes, or the town. I don't know if it was before they got bigger or whatever, but I wanted to give them a heads up that you guys were looking at that as well.
I may have to walk around and just have a little chat, but
No, that's all right.
All right. So, a motion to allow, second. Any further discussion, staff, anything additional that,
Just information for them, so obviously, if the board approves it, apparent that they do, I have to do a resolution for October 4th. So then they would officially approve it by resolution on October 4th. Then we have an agreement, you sign it, and then this authorizes the supervisor to sign it, and then we file it after that. So there's a little bit of more paperwork and process.
Yeah, we set it up.
Before you go with the
you
fence
know,
and stuff
so
like
the
that. but
paperwork's
it's-
got to catch up with the action as part of the governmental process.
Okay, yeah, I didn't set it up, I think, until, I did have someone come out and take a look at it,
Okay.
and we kind of set it up in a in case I could do it,
Yep.
till second week of October, so we should
Okay,
have time
we
to
should be
fill out the paperwork.
we should be in process by then.
Right, right. If you put that together and then we have a release that Mr. Horowitz can take a look at Friday the 6th.
We have a standard
should,
template that
yeah, we should be,
he's been okay with.
okay,
Just moving along pretty quickly.
very good. Okay, great. Any additional comments for the board
No,
or
just-
questions?
I had one question about, so if that's a drainage easement and there is there's an entrance 2 houses down, how deep are the pipes? Like I don't know how they put the fence in, it's chain link fence, so I'm pretty sure they just drive the stakes down, but I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have any pipes in your backyard. It runs from your neighbor's yard directly back out to the street.
Oh, okay.
So there's just a catch basin here and back out. If we had a pipe run into the back, we would most likely have you do at least a 5-foot offset or a
Okay.
couple foot offset, because otherwise, yeah, people have been known to drill through the top of the pipe
Right,
before.
that's
'cause
what, yeah,
running through backyards, sometimes they're only 2 feet deep or so, and, you know, we end
okay.
up...
So there's nothing in the backyard?
There is not.
Okay.
No, the pipe runs out the back, so it drains down to that inlet and then out to the street.
Is
Okay.
there any,
we're
is there
aware of, at
any
least.
Okay, well,
requirement
we'll
to
find
call?
out.
The contractor will have to call in.
Yeah, obviously, is there, just say they still call in Dig Safe New York.
Right,
Right.
okay.
This is not guaranteeing that, you know, RG&E or somebody else doesn't have a
Right.
conduit running water
Right.
for it as a conduit
Well,
bathroom.
there's electrical boxes right that you sell.
Yep, so you want to call Dig Safe New York, they'll stake out what else is there, but just as far as our infrastructure,
Okay.
we don't have
So
anything
you
else
can
back
dig
there.
and your dogs can dig.
Well, they don't dig, they just like to run away.
Hence the fence.
Yeah.
All right, great. Any other questions, comments? Board?
No.
Okay, then would look for those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good.
Thank you very
Great.
much, guys.
You got it, thank you
Yeah,
very
good
much.
night.
You're welcome to Penfield.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, 2709 Penfield Road, grade and fill permit for a pond.
Yep,
Welcome.
thank you.
Here this evening, Randy Fox, he approached me last week about putting a pond in his backyard, 2709. He gets, to kind of get you oriented, Penfield Road, Burcolos is, you can just see the edge of it off to the right, Dupree property, and then the Couch property to the left of that. There is some drainage that kind of comes off the hill down where the water tower is, drains through his backyard. The blue area, the blue line is our actual stream corridor, so it's not affecting what DEC has mapped as a blue line or a main stream. It's just kind of a drainage channel through there. I'll let Randy kind of take over from there, his thoughts about the pond and...
Yeah, I mean, I hired somebody to come out and take a look and just figure out what we can do. He wants, once we get approval, he'll do all the test holes to make sure that the ground is appropriate, that they have the clay and that they don't hit bedrock or any other. And once we have approval and that works out, they'll actually build the pond. The idea is it'd be about a half-acre pond. What we're thinking is 110 by 200 is the dimensions we're considering, but...
Running along the...
Yeah, kind of running
stream.
along, yeah.
So 200 by... Okay.
Yeah, currently right now, there's, I guess it's a sway or whatever, where the water kind of just drains through. It's not defined, I don't know. I know the town of Penfield kind of defined it up into my property, but not through it. So my yard just gets very wet because the water just kind of goes where it wants because it's kind of all level at that time. So the idea is to grade, take all the fill from the pond and add it to the property and grade it all towards the pond so I have a drier yard.
So I've given Randy our grade and fill permit, and he'll work with his contractor to fill that out and provide all the paperwork we need. But just knowing the size of what he was doing, thought it was appropriate to bring him to the board to make you aware of what's going on.
Got it.
see if there's any issues.
So the pond itself, this is kind of the blown-up version, but the pond itself will be located kind of in this, in that area there.
Yep,
Again,
basically.
depending upon soil samples and
Yep.
test holes and things
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And then is your intent then also to, clean one way or the other, or just to have everything, east to west and west to east going into the pond?
Yeah, he's gonna build like a flow out back to, to where the current, I guess, not a creek, but the swale currently is.
But the swales. So
Yeah.
he'd take it back out to this area here.
Yeah, he'll build some sort of, he had a word for it, unfortunately, I don't know that word,
Got
but
it, got it.
he has a design in it to make it flow right into that, so there'll be no like stopping the flow or anything.
Okay. And you mind sharing who's doing the work?
Ponds Plus, it's
Plus.
out of Canandaigua, I believe the guy's name is Warren Smith.
Got it, okay. Right, everybody's good with that? All right.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Rob, thank you. Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Randy, any questions, comments that you might have?
Nope, I'll just complete the form and get it
Okay,
over.
work with Mark?
Yep, as soon as
That'll
possible.
be great.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you very
for your
much.
time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, brings us to E, and so we'll mix it up a little bit. I trust everyone knows Mr. Masterton, Tim Masterton. Tim is our Parks foreman. Bob Garbeck retired. Tim asked to be considered for the job, brought a lot to the table. We were pleased to be able to put him in that position. Tell some stories out of school here a little bit. I knew Tim Masterton before he was Tim Masterton. I mean, that's how long I've known him. He's been around and part of the Penfield fabric, his family and grandparents, so glad he's part of the team. So, yeah. So, Mr. Tate, Mr. Masterton, you've been playing on the playgrounds.
Yeah, really, that's what the park's for.
That's the opposite.
Spend all day on the swings.
Thank you. As Tim passes out some of the renderings of a potential playground, about a year ago, we started looking at the 2017 budget. As part of that, we put in, knowing that inevitably, over the course of the years, all of our playgrounds need to be updated as they start to fade and deteriorate and just become old, and try to update them. The playground that we felt would be appropriate to upgrade or replace for the 2017 timeframe was the playground over at Greenwood Park. With that said, we did incorporate money in the budget for the playground replacement. We recently went out for bid for the playground itself. We did receive 3 bids. They came from Titan Development, which Game Time is the actual supplier of the particular playground equipment. Titan is the contractor that would do the install. The other 2 bids were from American Recreational Products and Miracle Recreation Equipment. We've used both Game Time and Miracle playgrounds in the past around town. A few of the Game Time playgrounds we have are over at Harris Whalen and at Rofus. They've held up well. We've been happy with their product, and coincidentally they came in as the low bid for the potential playground.
Can you give us the numbers for the?
Yes, the low bid for the playground for all of the equipment, the installation, and the drainage, border, and safety mulch that Titan and Game Time gave us was $57,725. The next closest bid was from American Recreational Products that came in at $68,917, and Miracle Recreation Equipment came in at $90,405.
Wow.
So there was a little bit of a difference between the bids.
Yeah, Yeah, sure, they're the ones that.
We kind of went through and, as Tony, had our little breakdown, we went through the specs in all of the items A through H that we specified that they needed. Titan actually exceeded the requirements for 2 of the items. Item B was that it had 2 platforms. They're actually proposing 3. As well as item D was having 3 climbing elements, and they're actually proposing a 4th as well, incorporating that into it. So,
Not including the slide.
Sounds good. Where are they located?
Gotta have a slide.
Which is,
Where are
well,
they
it was always.
The
a
game time
climbing
ones, the Lower Hare Swalen, right behind the.
Oh, no, the
oh,
company, the company.
Oh, the company? Our representative that we deal with, she's out of Buffalo. So they're all New York State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds good?
sounds good to me.
Comfortable?
I-
So they were low bidder game time, low bidder Titan as the developer, meeting or exceeding all the specs. And so if we're comfortable with that, we'll move forward with getting a resolution for that. And when Eric and Tim put the specs together, they had a little bit of foresight where they bid it to have the work done this year, but if for some reason either delayed approval or if weather came in and what have you, they would hold their price to do it in the spring. So either way, the price, the bottom line price is the price, but I'm guessing that if the board approves it on the 4th, there's a high likelihood they'll have it in this fall. I think our only skin in the game is that we will remove the existing equipment. We won't do that until we have a date and we know that they're there, so that in case something happens, we don't get it down too early.
there are a few replacement panels that Tim has kind of mentioned that we've replaced. They're still in good shape, and we can actually take those off and save them as replacements for some of our other playgrounds, if ever needed.
Excellent, excellent. And Tim is our certified playground inspector.
Safety.
Safety inspector,
yeah?
excuse me.
CPSI.
Yes, okay, got it.
I've got a couple of kids that can inspect the playground. They're not safe.
I've got one that can
He's got
explore the risks of the
I
playground.
was going to say, he's got the safety piece. Would entertain a motion. Thank you, Linda.
A second.
I support this, Tony. The only, I guess, comment I would make is that if it starts to get a little bit late into the fall, at that point, maybe it might be the best decision just to hold off until the spring. Because there's no sense in putting it up only to have snow hit
Right.
a couple weeks later or something like
Exactly.
that. But these guys can make that judgment
Yeah.
call on how
I was
fast
going to
it
say,
takes.
we'll let Eric and Tim kind of work with the developer and contractor on that, and kind of go from there.
I mean, they certainly bid it out anticipating, likely installing it this fall.
Sure.
So that should be, fine, but we'll work with them to make sure that they can get all of the products and materials in time, and then it's not going to be too late in the season.
Okay.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
All right.
Aye, okay. Carrie, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for all your hard work today and all the projects that we worked on. This brings us to the end of our agenda. We do have one matter under executive session for legal, and Mr. Horowitz will be joining us. The next work session meeting will be October 11th, 2017, and tonight's work session, September 27th, 2017, stands adjourned at 7:47 p.m. Thank you to staff, PCTV. Have a great evening.